What's going on, everybody? Been a long couple weeks. We haven't been able to post any videos, and you know, with COVID-19, the holidays and all, and the cold, we haven't had a chance to go do any hunting or do much of anything, especially with work going on. I told my brother, I said, you know, I ought to make a video about the top 5 best and worst turtle, tortoises, and snake video. And it's a lot of opinionated, but I can kind of tell you why I feel like beginners should start out or not start out with certain turtles, tortoises, and snakes. So I guess we'll do the turtle one first. Okay, so the top 5 worst turtles and tortoises to get for beginners, in my opinion, are these. Number 5, sliders. I know what you're thinking. Sliders are probably the most common turtle in the pet trade. The problem is sliders, whether it be yellow bellies, mainly red ears, but I just put them all together. Sliders are also the most commonly released turtle from the pet trade because people get a slider and they keep them for several years and they don't realize just how big a slider can get. You know, you see them in the movies or in the pet shows, and they're this little tiny little thing, and males don't get that big. But if you get a female, because you're buying them a little $half size baby, females get big. I mean, you know, big turtles. They're not going to fit in a normal tank. They need a big area to swim in. And that is one of the biggest reasons I put them on the worst turtles to get if you're a beginner, mainly for the size. Now, number 4, basically the same thing. Cooters, river cooters, peninsula cooters. The problem with these guys are people get them. They look so cute and tiny when they're hatchlings, and they get them and they don't realize how big they get. And river cooters and peninsula cooters and all the other cooters out there get bigger than even the sliders do, especially the females. You want to stay away from that from a beginner because you're getting something that you don't realize what you're getting. And once they get too big, and then that's when people decide to start releasing these things into the wild. That's why even here in South Carolina, you can go to some of the ponds and you will find hybrid red ear sliders mixed with the yellow belly sliders we have here. And they have orange ears instead of red. And red ears don't belong here. But because of everybody releasing them in these little neighborhoods, now we have hybrid sliders. So number 3 is a tortoise. One of the worst tortoises to get for beginners is a sulcata. Now the reason I say that, I love sulcatas, they make great pets. Sulcatas can get huge. The last one I had was about 150 pounds, and I'm telling you, it literally went right through the dog fence, a chain link fence. It walked right through it. Because if it can see through it, it will walk right through it. They're big, strong, powerful. They dig huge burrows. People get them when they're this big around. They think they're cute little turtles or tortoises, and they don't realize just how big they get. And we're not just talking about size too, we're talking about longevity. These things can live a very long time, very long time. You don't want to get something that is going to outlive you if you don't even want to. You got to think of the future, more so than a dog or a cat or anything, or even a turtle. Most turtles, you want to think of the very long term because they will live a long time and they also get huge. So that's another reason I put sulcatas in there for one of the worst for beginners. Still cool tortoises though. Number 2, again, for beginners, one of the worst turtles you can get is a snapping turtle, whether it be common snapper, Florida snapper, or even the other species, completely different species, the alligator snapping turtle, not to be confused with the other 2 subspecies or species. Snapping turtles get big. They get big. We're talking a common snapper can get very big, considering not near as big as an alligator snapper, but they can get upwards of 40, 50 pounds. That would be a giant, but they do get, 20, 30 pounds on average. that's huge. You know, you buy them as a hatchling about the size of a $50, and you see this adorable little turtle, and you don't realize how big they're going to get. A lot of these people get these big turtles or these little baby turtles and just haven't done their research, and they're really getting a monster. If you don't anticipate how big an animal gets, you're not going to get the right enclosure for them, or either have to spend money way down the road and get a bigger enclosure, and you don't want that. Alligator snappers, they're a different story. They get really big. Males can get 200 pounds, 200 plus really. I mean, obviously those would be extremely old turtles. But you can get even a small one, they're gonna get, you know, within 10 years, 50 pounds, 60 pounds, and males get huge. You don't want something that size if you're not prepared for it. You know, so it might seem cool to get an alligator snapping turtle, but if you do, you're gonna have to think about the long term and how big these things get. And number one, and this is a ridiculous one, obviously, because most people, even myself, are not gonna be able to afford one of these, much less really need to know much about it, because the price alone is gonna deter anybody from getting one. But that is an Aldabra, or a Galapagos tortoise. They're both from the Galapagos Islands. But an Aldabra, commonly seen on the pet market, I want to say babies go for roughly $2,000, somewhere in there. Adults, forget about it. That's like $80,000 or more. But these things, obviously, if you've ever seen a Galapagos tortoise, get gigantic. But you probably won't ever see it get that big, because that's how slow they grow and how long they live. Aldabras, obviously, bigger than a sulcata in size. These things, you're going to need a forklift or something else to pick them up and move them. So again, that was more of a joke one, because the average beginner is not going to be buying an Aldabra, but it just goes to show that you need to look at the turtle or tortoise you get before you get it, because you don't know what you're getting unless you research it. And a lot of people don't, unfortunately. They go to the pet store, or they go to a flea market and they see little baby sliders and they think they're adorable, and they take them home, and in 2 years or less they release them into the wild, and we have a problem. And then we get all these stupid reptile laws put into place because of somebody who's really just wanted a cute turtle, didn't really care much about it. They just wanted a little cute turtle they found in the woods, and we don't need all these laws because of people being irresponsible with their pets. And here's my list of the top 5 turtles/tortoises that you might want to consider if you're a beginner, and why. Number 5 would be a Russian tortoise, if you're into tortoises. Now, the reason I say Russian tortoises is because Russian tortoises stay small. One of the biggest things that people do as a mistake, I feel, in beginners, if you're just getting a simple pet turtle or tortoise, is they get something and don't realize how big it gets. And that's some of the ones on my top five don't get list. But Russian tortoises stay relatively small. They're easier to keep, and all around make good pets, especially if you're into tortoises. And number 4 is a turtle, mud turtle. Mud turtles are great for beginners because, again, they stay small, depending on the species you get. But there's many different species to choose from, and none of them get extremely large. Easy to keep. They're very hardy turtles for the most part, and especially with beginners. That's something you want to consider, because you don't want to get something and think it's going to stay in a small tank and end up getting a giant turtle that you didn't anticipate getting, because turtles live a fairly good amount of time, especially tortoises. Tortoises can live a long time too. So number 3 I have for tortoises, and this is a tortoise, a redfoot or yellowfoot tortoise. These guys, awesome tortoises to own. I love them. They get big as far as most of your turtles, probably around 12 inches roughly, for the most part. Bigger, some get a little bigger, some stay a little smaller, but you're looking at around 12-inch tortoise. They're easy to keep. If you're in the south, they're great to keep outdoors all year long. That's another one I feel like is a decent one for beginners. Another one, number 2, would be a painted turtle, excuse me. Painted turtles stay relatively small. They're very attractive turtles. They're nice little pattern and colored on them. They don't get very big. They're easy to keep, very hardy turtles. That's another one I would recommend for beginners, especially if you're into aquatic turtles. That's just my opinion. And number 1, obviously, box turtles. Several different species to pick from. They're good turtles to have indoors or outdoors. Prefer mine outdoors, especially if you live in a good environment. They live a long time, but they don't get very big, considering. So you can keep them in a small area compared to what you would some of the larger turtles and tortoises. And that's what my top 5 list of turtles or tortoises you can own if you're a beginner with their pets. That should be pretty good. So something to think about. And if you really do want a tortoise or turtle, then check out some of the top 5 I gave, because some of them are really cool turtles and tortoises. They come in all kinds of colors, and there's way more than this. This is just my own personal top 5 list. You have like Reeves turtles. They're small little turtles. And I'm not saying you shouldn't get sliders or anything else. I'm saying that if you do get that, expect something bigger than you have. Don't expect some little cute turtle that's going to stay a little tiny little thing, because they're going to get much bigger. And hopefully that helps some of you. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section. Just trying to make a video here to maybe help somebody down the line. I'm not an expert by any means on anything in life, but I have had some experience, in the past with reptiles. So again, hopefully that helps a little bit. Let me know what you think. Thank you.